Welcome back to Admit It with Alexis. We are going to be talking today about admissions plans. Okay, what does that even mean? Why do we even care? This is one of the things that people talk about changing so much over the last 30 years. Like, I don't understand. There's early decision and early action and early this. It's bonkers what these colleges are doing with all of these admission plans. So first I want to tell you what they're all about, because it used to be that you had regular decision. That was like, oh, January, I'm applying to college in January, and then I'm going to get my answer in April, and that's that. Then from regular decision, they added early decision. Early decision is binding, and it always has been, which I feel like is like the weirdest term. To me, it just sounds gross. Whatever, it's binding. So what that means is you sign this contract that says to the schools, if I am admitted, I will absolutely attend. And we're going to get back to that in a little bit, because that's where problems are starting to come up in the legal sense, okay? So remember, early decision is binding. You sign a contract. Then they came up with this early action business. Oh, hey, like if you want to get your application in early for a November deadline like you would, back up. Early decision deadlines are always November 1st, generally, or November 15th or October 15th or whatever. Usually they're just early. That's the idea. Then early action comes up and it's like, oh, you can get your application in for November 1st, yay, but you don't have to go if you get in, okay? So now we've got regular, early decision, early action. That's now 3. Then they come up with early decision 2, which is so weird. Early decision 2 is, oh, hey, you didn't get into your first early decision school, the November 1st deadline. Well, or you didn't know you wanted to apply somewhere early decision, or whatever your deal was. You now have the opportunity to apply early decision 2 with a January, usually, deadline. So it's like the same deadline as regular decision, but you send your application in then, and then you sign the contract, and then it's binding. Okay, why would a person pick early decision 2? Usually, often, because they have an early decision 1 school that they didn't get into. So for example, I had a student who applied early decision to NYU, didn't get in, and then applied early decision 2 for BU. And we kind of had that situation already on lock, like set up. We knew that early decision 2 was going to be the second choice, BU, fine. Do the schools know that you didn't get into that first early decision 1 school? No. Do they care? No. Do they feel like they're a sloppy second? No. A lot of kids aren't ready to make an early decision. A lot of kids, there's a lot of reasons why people would choose early decision 2, so nobody's going to sit around and wonder why. So that's an option, and I actually think that's a really cool option. Then there's also rolling admission, which basically means that you get your application in and they assess it on a rolling basis. You're going to get an answer quickly. Like, so University of Pittsburgh is rolling. If I get my application in today, which is September 9th, I'm probably going to hear from them in 2 weeks or a week, okay? Versus if I got my application in for September 9th to a school that was early action, I'm still not going to hear until, well, that's another thing about early action that's kind of important to talk about too. Why do people choose early action? Because like early decision, you're getting your application in earlier, which means you're going to hear back earlier. So if you early action something, let's say you get your application in November 1st, November 15th. It's a lot of mouthful. You're going to get your application back in December, January, whatever, which is earlier than if you do regular decision. If you do regular decision, you're going to hear back in March. You're going to hear back in March, April. So that's why people like to do things early, because they like to hear early so they can make decisions accordingly. Fine. But now we have literally 5 admissions plans. We have regular, we have early action, we have early decision 1, we have early decision 2, we have rolling. Have I missed any? Oh, there's also this other weird thing where, let's say you apply to a school early action, like Tulane, and you get deferred. Okay, here's what deferred means. We got your application early. You're great. We're not sure if we've got room for you. We're not sure we're going to take you. We're going to push your application into the regular decision pool. Now you're going to be assessed among the January 1st crew. When you get that letter from a place like Tulane or Miami, there's a few schools that do this. and when I say letter, I mean email or something along those lines in your portal, they often will give you, well, they will always give you the option to switch your admission plan to early decision 2. So they're like, at this time, would you like to switch your admissions plan to early decision 2, which gives you the option for the binding thing, the creepy binding thing. Why do we care about all this? Because early decision, again, I said you have to sign a contract. Most people, and the contract appears on the common application, it's basically like you're saying that you're agreeing to attend. Is this a legally binding document? Has some attorney drawn this up? Is this in, is there some sort of statute? No, it's not legally binding. It's just an agreement like you'd make, I don't know. It's like a handshake. It's a handshake agreement, a friendly handshake where you're saying, I agree to take this space. If you break that agreement, what is the consequence? Nobody's coming after you. Nobody's breaking down your door. You're not getting arrested. You're not getting suspended. You're not any of those things. And that's not the deal. But do you fall out of favor possibly with your high school and your high school counselor? Absolutely. You've taken a space of somebody's that they wanted, you've taken up time from an admissions office. They've spent time on your application. You've taken up, there's a lot of issues with it. So your high school is not going to love that. That's not good. Then what the schools will often do is then blacklist the high school in further admissions processes. So there was a school in LA, I remember, that wasn't getting anyone into NYU for 10 years. And my guess was that it had to do with a few of the kids applying early decision and then deciding then pulling out. And NYU going, we're not playing this game with you anymore. So it's unethical is the point. If you don't feel like you can sign the contract and go, it's unethical. Okay, we'll put that on the shelf for now. Other reasons why early decision can be tricky. If you need financial aid, early decision is hard because you very well will not, or you may very likely not get any financial aid. You may, you're basically saying I can pay full tuition is the vibe. So recently, this was literally a few weeks ago, 32 colleges, a lawsuit has been brought against 32 colleges being accused of early decision. Well, they're being accused of using early decision to drive up costs. Okay. Basically, that they're using their early decision plan to get full pay students and essentially depriving kids who apply to early decision of knowing whether or not they were going to receive financial aid packages from other schools. Okay, they're looking for class action status, so it's a whole group of people, and they allege that the practice, and I'm looking at this in Higher Ed Dive, but this was on CNN, this was on all the major news outlets. The alleged practice also allows colleges to offer less financial aid to their students. Okay, so this is an antitrust lawsuit, basically saying that by using this early decision plan, now this is not all schools that use early decision, but it's these 32 schools are basically creating an atmosphere where they're not giving financial aid to people who are early decision applicants, and essentially discriminating against them in a certain way. But it's not a discrimination suit. It's an antitrust suit because it is moving away from the possibility of competition, right? So they allege that they use early decision admissions to reduce competition and financial aid packages for students. The lawsuit filed Friday, so this article was on August 11th, argues that early decision admissions, a college application option that ostensibly binds a prospective student to enroll if they receive an acceptance offer, allows colleges to artificially decrease competition, charge higher tuition rates, and offer less financial aid. And if you think about it from the Microsoft perspective, and that antitrust lawsuit where, right, they were diminishing competition and essentially they were the only players in the game, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, which means you can essentially price fix, reducing the competition, all that. This is kind of that. As somebody who I advise people okay, if you really want Duke and blah, 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 and you got all this competition for your school, then you better apply early decision. And I'm not saying it's with all early decision plans, but in particular with these schools. So let's talk about what schools they are that are named in the suit. Amherst, Barnard, Bowdoin, Brown, Bryn Mawr, Carleton, Columbia, Cornell, Dartmouth, Duke. I feel like we're singing the ABCs. Emory, Haverford, Johns Hopkins, McAllister, Middlebury, Mount Holyoke, Northwestern, Oberlin, Pomona, Rice, Smith, Swarthmore, Trinity, UChicago, UPenn, University of Rochester, Vanderbilt, Vassar, WashU, Wellesley, Wesleyan, Williams. Okay. We're playing with the big boys now. These are the real deal here. So basically, one of the things that they're discovering is that colleges that do not use early decision tend to have lower tuition rates than similar institutions that do, okay, according to the lawsuit. Now, and I feel kind of weirdly, I'm not going to say I'm complicit, but I feel I'm very honest with clients in this, where I go, if you need significant financial aid, do not apply early decision. They're not going to give it to you. So I'm sort of driving this cost. It's just absolutely true. They're setting a price and people are meeting that price under the guise or the, it's not a guise. It's they're being convinced, or they're being kind of haggled through this idea that they will ultimately have a higher rate of admissions by doing this for these schools. And that's really the ploy, right? If you apply here, early decision, you're going to have a higher rate of acceptance. And that's true for some schools. I remember Vanderbilt used to say that they had, a 40% higher acceptance rate if you applied early decision. That's almost being, I don't know what it's a sales tactic. And when you think about it, and when I read these articles, I thought, this feels sleazy to me. It does kind of feel gross. So basically, not only are you going to have a lower rate of acceptance if you apply to these schools regular decision or early action, because you're not signing this allegedly binding contract, which we're going to get to that in a second, is not a legal document. You're being pulled into this idea that you're going to have a higher rate of acceptance by essentially saying, I'm in for 90 grand a year. I'm a sure thing. Check is in the mail. The other way to look at that is to go, you know what? People who know what they want and can afford it, why not? It's a free country. Go for it. Get what you want, get what you need. I think we can see all those things as real aspects in a competitive market. But I think the idea of this being an antitrust suit is pretty interesting. And I don't disagree, because I do think that they are essentially price fixing, and making it so that other schools can't compete unless they have early decision as well. And so that makes things really weird and tricky. I wanted to address, the other piece of it. This contract that you sign. Students are, they sign this contract and they feel like they're legally bound to something, and they're not. It's not a legal document. Now, you're doing this at the expense possibly, if you break the contract, you look like a jerk. Okay, so that's the bottom line. You look like a jerk. You might make things hard for other people. You might make things impossible for a sibling. It's just not good business. It's not a nice thing to do. It's unethical. And I always think you should be entering into the college process with ethics, because you are stepping into the next phase of your life and you want to do it with that in mind. But things change. Okay, so maybe you applied early decision and something drastic and crazy happened with your family financially. God forbid, someone gets sick or someone loses their job or whatever, and you need to get out of it and you need to be able to go to your state school because the circumstances have changed. Okay, that is totally fair. If you see that writing on the wall, you need to be going straight to your counselor at your school and to the schools you've applied early decision to and just say, look, I need to pull my contract because if I don't get financial aid, I will not be able to go. Or let's say they have accepted you and you don't get any aid. You can also say to them, thanks, but no thanks. It's not going to work out for me. But that's an unusual situation, and those are case by case bases. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this lawsuit. And they're also, by the way, Common App and Score, however people pronounce it, those are application Common App is the application platform that is used to actually submit your application. Score is a platform, you don't submit applications through Score, but it is used to deal with the demographics, with your information, with your teacher recommendations, blah, blah, blah. They're also named in the lawsuit, okay? So it says the students interested in early decision are typically required to apply to the defendant colleges through Common App and Score's application platform. So I guess Score does have an application platform. I've never known anybody who's used it, which the lawsuit alleges reduces competition. In addition to requiring applicants to sign early decision documents, the platforms bar students from submitting more than one early decision application. Okay. That doesn't make any sense to me because if you're applying early decision, it's got to be one school. I don't understand why you would do more than one school early decision. That's one of the reasons why early decision 2 has come into play. So I'm fuzzy on that. And then it also says that colleges on the Common App also routinely remove students accepted via early decision elsewhere from their own list of prospective candidates, according to the lawsuit. Okay, so I'm a little off on that. I want to know what you think about this. Is early decision a scam? Do you feel like, colleges have a right to do this? Like, you know what? If you can afford this, you get your application in early, you're a fit for our school, done. Like checks in the mail, good job. Free will, everyone should be able to do what they want. I want to know what you think. Write us, send us a message on Instagram, TikTok, DM, all the things. Now let's get to questions from you. There are some good ones here, guys. All right. 2 people have asked about mental health issues and whether or not how much is too much to reveal in a Common App statement. And on the flip side, for like learning differences, should you reveal that you take ADHD medication? Okay, I want to start with the mental health issue first. So someone had written about a student who was experiencing suicidal ideation when he was in kind of early years of middle school, COVID-ish times, then ultimately ended up kind of coming out of it and really experiencing great success in school and in life. But of course, we know the steps that it takes to get there, right? Like that's a lot of therapy. That's possibly medication. That's how much is too much to reveal. So I call essays like this, like if you're going to write about this type of thing, which by the way, if like you've experienced suicidal ideation, that's something that is an extremely, that's a huge turning point in your life. And that's what the essay, really is asking for, is to talk about something we would never otherwise know about in your application. And if this is something that is significant in your growth, which I imagine it is and was, this would be the topic for sure. And the events surrounding it and the issues surrounding it. So yes, you can do it. It's not too much. Like you can say, I've had students who've been in inpatient rehab for, drugs and alcohol. I've had students who've experienced eating disorders. I've seen lots of situations with students overcoming really, really big adult serious things. And so I call these essays overcoming essays for that reason. I do want to know the journey. I don't need to know all the details because it's going to distract me as a reader. And so I don't need to know the depths of your darkest thoughts. I don't need to know like all that stuff. I need to know kind of just, let's keep us a little bit just below surface of the journey. When the feelings began, how, what was the lowest point? How did we get out of the lowest point? Therapy, an inpatient program, that's okay to talk about, as long as you are focusing on the way forward, the other side, your successes now. Looking back, what have you learned? How has this experience influenced you and shaped you? Medication on both fronts. So whether or not it's a mental health issue or it's a learning difference. I think that you can, it's so weird to me, by the way, because like I have kids that take medication, my own children. Quite frankly, I take medication. Like, I don't know why this is such an issue for people in the sense that it feels kind of weird that it's like this uncomfortable thing to talk about. I just don't get it because it's so pervasive and like it helps. And if it's helped you get out of your, it helps if it saved your life, literally. I don't know why it's weird to talk about. So I guess the important thing is to talk about it in a way that's really productive, to say that, and I think it's usually a combination of talk therapy and of medication, and you can say through the combination of, meeting regularly with a therapist and implementing medication, I've been able to boom, boom, boom. We do want to know, however, that it's in the rear view, because colleges are not going to want to look at this and go, ooh, is a relapse imminent? That scares us. So I think you get the vibe here. It's an overcoming tale. Now, this person's asking how and when to mention ADHD on Common App. Meds dramatically increase grades from A's and B's to all A's. Okay. I know how powerful that journey is from my own life as a parent with my own kids. I know how much anxiety that alleviates. I know how much potential that you see, the potential you see in your kid where they're like a middle schooler or an elementary school, and you're like, God, this kid has to work so hard for B's. And by the way, I'm thinking about myself and how much that would have helped me. I would talk about that in the additional information section. If there is a major shift, you may talk about an ADHD diagnosis, but I want to know how that shifted how you learn and how you approach your learning. Not just like I popped some pills and now I'm better, but really, how do you digest information now? How has your time management changed? How do you balance things? What have you learned about yourself? Because it is a cocktail of things. It's not just medication. It's how you manage your time. It's how much sleep you get. It's how you eat. It's a whole thing. So I want to know that you've implemented those. It's exercise. It's all of that to make sure that you are the healthiest person that you can be. And then we, of course, want to know that that is something you're going to take to college with you. So my question is around going big or not. And I don't really know what she means by that. Let's see. It seems as though everyone is looking at highly competitive schools that seem really out of reach. Yeah. Whereas we have taken the opposite approach and now wonder if we are too conservative with our college picks. Okay, really good question. There are always stories like, I got into Northeastern with a 3.6 and no test, or my neighbor's son had a killer essay but not great grades and got into BC. Are these types of stories true, or are we grasping at straws? I really appreciate this question. There are always myths out there. I'm not saying that there is lore, I'll call it that, right? And it's derived from true stories, yes, okay? Yes, there is the kid who had the 3.6 and the great essay, but not the this and the that, and got into, it's crazy. She got into Northwestern, or she got into, I don't know, Wash U. I am going to tell you what I would tell you if I was advising you as a client. Live in reality. Look at your GPA and your test scores if you have them, and all of your needs. They're financial, they're geographic, with your academic philosophy, with your majors, all of that. Put aside whether or not something is hard to get into, and focus on the schools that are the right fit for you academically. You fall within the range of the average GPA. You fall within the range of the average SAT and ACT scores. We want a smattering of schools that are safeties. More like, I always like to say, like 3 safeties. These are schools for whom you are way above the range of tests, way above the range of GPA. Like, for sure you're getting in. Let's have 3 or 4 of those. Targets, let's have 6 where we're really in the range. Like, it would be kind of crazy if you didn't get in. And then pick 2 reaches, maybe 3, but that is already too many. I gotta say, I've been doing this for a really long time. Those stories are so few and far between that I wish people would just earmuffs and really focus on what's at hand and what is the right fit. Now, if one of those schools is beyond a shadow of a doubt the right fit for your kid, but it's still a reach, put it on. But make sure you're picking schools not just because they're prestigious or because they, whatever, but because they actually would be happen to be great for your kid. Have 1 or 2 of those, or 2 or 3. I said 2 or 3. But that's it. I'm capping you at that timeout because, yes, to answer your question, you will be grasping at straws and you will be very sad when the decisions come in. Sometimes you'll be pleasantly surprised. Sometimes you will be surprised that schools that you thought were safeties, you randomly get waitlisted or deferred, and it's weird. So err on the side of caution and then throw in those higher reaches, knowing, okay, I'm going to live in the myth zone with that and just for funsies. All right, so one more. This person's asking, how do you predict USC Marshall ED will look? And then opinion on spring admits. Okay, so I'm assuming when you ask, how do you predict what USC Marshall ED is going to look like? Okay, so this is their first year doing early decision for USC's Marshall School of Business. And they only do early decision for Marshall School of Business, not for the school in general. Okay, this is so dumb. But I just asked, will USC defer for ED Marshall? And it says, no, USC does not defer applicants for its early decision ED program for Marshall School of Business. Instead, you will be moved to the regular decision round. But that is deferring. So the answer is yes. I think it's going to look a lot like what early action always did look like. But they're doing kind of like what we talked about in the beginning. And what the issue is with this whole lawsuit is they're grabbing their sure things. They're grabbing their full tuition people right off the bat. And then anyone who is remotely kind of not a fit is going to go into regular. So I think it's going to be really underwhelming. And I think so many people who thought that they were going to get in aren't, because they're going to have too many people yet again. But this is really because they want to collect their checks in the beginning. And then they're asking about spring admits. Okay. Spring admits to USC, I'm not sure, they weren't specific. There's spring admit for Miami. There's spring admit for USC. There's spring admit for Tulane. I think we're going to see a lot more of that. Alternative admissions plans are going to be the way of the future. Everyone is going to have to buckle up and deal with it. That January is going to become a new normal start date. That starting a year later is going to become a new normal start date. That going to Europe for a year is going to be a new normal. And I tell this to my clients, get used to it, because we just have too many people. I think right before I started this episode, I think I just saw that it was 4.5 million more applicants to college between now and, in fall of 1995, total post-secondary enrollment was approximately 14.26 million students. By 2022, that number had grown to roughly 18.58 million. Okay, so I was right. About 4 million more students enrolled in 2022 compared to 1995. Guys, these schools didn't magically get bigger, really. They have some more programs, they have more graduate school, blah, 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 but they still have, they didn't actually blow up in size. Some of them did with great construction and all that stuff, but there's only so many spaces for so many people. So get on the spring admit game. It's a real thing. Adjust your expectations. Can't wait to see you guys next time. That is a wrap for Admit It today. If you have any more questions for this segment in the next podcast episode, email admititwithalexis@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in to Admit It with Alexis White. If you're working on your college applications and want guidance every step of the way, visit alexiscollegeexpert.com to find resources and support tailored for you. For even more tips, stories, and college insights, make sure to follow me on TikTok and Instagram @collegeexpert. Until next time, good luck, and remember, you don't have to do this alone.